All right, we are live. Welcome to the live stream. Live streaming to a couple places. If you are on YouTube, just like a fair warning, sometimes the beginning of the live is a little like blurry, and if you're watching on the replay, you might see it be a little blurry. But stick with it because, we got some good stuff, and it does clear up. I promise. All right. So this month, we are talking all things revision related, script revision related, film script, TV script, doesn't matter, but revision is an essential part. It is vital. It is in fact, most of the writing happens in the revision. I just talked about this in the last live stream. So this month, which at the time of this recording is August, we are diving into all things revision. And today, I am going to be going over the top five. Actually, I'm not going to say necessarily top five, but definitely five mistakes, five big mistakes that people make when they go into their script revision. All right. And I feel like I could expand that to like seven, eight, nine, 10 things, but I'm going to try to stick to five. You might get some bonus ones in there. But before we dive in, let me introduce myself. My name is Kristen Iris Johnson. I am a showrunner, film producer, screenwriter, and the CEO of Black Screenwriter Alliance, where we bring together emerging Black film and TV writers who are serious about growing a career in the entertainment industry to come together to elevate their writing craft, confidently build industry relationships, and learn how to forge a path in the industry that works for you, but to do it with allies. So that is what we do here. And that is also what we do in our online community, Black Screenwriter Alliance. You can check it out 7 days for free at blackscreenwriteralliance.mn.co. And as we are here, you know, we are live and we are chatting about revision. So make sure that you like, subscribe, and enjoy where we go with this one because we're getting into five mistakes and also how to avoid those mistakes. All right. The first one I would say is when it comes to revision, and for some reason, people like to just try and skip these steps and like breeze through it. Don't do that. Revision is really important. That is like the writing happens in the revision. When you are working on a project, especially for feature film, and especially when that project gets greenlit or it's getting interest from someone, you are going to spend more time in revision than you are actually writing the script because you're going to get notes from everybody, right? But let's say we're before that part, right? Where you don't have a producer or a network giving you notes. When you are working on your own, one of the mistakes that people make is they start in the wrong place. They finish their script, and then they go back to particular scenes or particular like small things that they want to revise. And what you really need to handle first are the big things. You need to look at story and character. Period. Those are the big things. Story, character. I could throw world building in there. Um, but you need to look at those big things because when you have problems with your story and character, those can have a ripple effect through your entire script. And it could mean a lot more changes than you expect. So spending your time revising like this little scene or, oh, I really want to make this dialogue like real catchy. Cool. But what if that scene ends up not being there because you realize that it's not serving the story because it's leading the character in a different in like the wrong direction. So starting in the wrong place, you want to start with the big things first, story and character. And then that also includes story structure, right? Making sure that your story structure is sound. And I would also like underneath that, and then which gets into like a little bit more of like the later phases of revision is also your world building, making sure that your building is clear. So you want to make sure you have a clear story, you have compelling characters, and that those things are solid. Then you can get into everything else. So the next thing is, so that's number one. Number two is skipping getting feedback or only getting feedback once or from one person. This is not good. This is a big mistake. All right. You want to make sure that you get feedback. Feedback is essential. It's something when your project gets greenlit, you're going to get feedback from a lot of people, producers, studio executives, or network executives if they're involved, directors, maybe actors. You're going to get feedback from all kinds of people. You have to be able to actually handle that. And so you don't want to skip that feedback part because that also is where you get other perspectives. That is where you get outside feedback and insight into how your story is landing, how your characters are coming off, where things are off in your structure, or where somebody's like, well, you started this, but this storyline didn't go anywhere and it just disappeared. Things that you may not actually see because you've been in it so much that you don't have the distance to actually catch those things, or because you are coming from having so much information about your story that you're not able to see where there are gaps in what's actually on the page. So getting feedback is really, really important. Now, if you are skipping feedback, I think it is typically for three reasons that people skip feedback. It's either they don't know any better, which means that they are very, very new. You're lazy and you're rushing, like you want to skip steps, you want to rush to the next thing, which means that you're either like you're being lazy because you don't want to take the real steps that you need to, or you are just trying to rush through, or you are scared. And that might be the case. There are a lot of writers, like our work is precious to us. And so when you are working on your script and you've spent however much time developing and outlining, and then you got this script and you've been spending all this time revising, it can feel scary to put that out and give that to other people who can give you real feedback. And I mean quality feedback. We'll talk more about feedback next week. But it can be scary to do that because you're like, oh no, what if they hate it? What if this whole thing is garbage? What if I have to rewrite the whole thing? Well, baby, it's better to find that out early than later when you've already sent that out to a bunch of producers and they're like, what is this? So also, it's not necessarily likely that that's going to happen. That's also part of the like irrational fear. It could happen. That has happened to me when it comes to with a project. It wasn't a film project, but it was another project. But that is part of the fear is, oh no, what if they don't like it? And I don't want to face that possibility. So I'm just not going to get feedback. I'm just going to send it out, or I'm going to skip that step, or I'm just never going to send it out at all. And that's not going to move you forward. So don't be afraid of feedback. You need feedback. You need the outside perspective. And when you find good people, as in other writers that you trust their storytelling skills, you trust their ability to give feedback, industry professionals that you trust that want to see you progress, when you get the right feedback, you have to keep in mind that people are trying to make your story better. By and large, people are not trying to tear you down. If you're getting good quality feedback from the right people, if you're getting feedback from people who like they don't have a good cultural lens, or they're just not experienced enough, they don't really know enough to give you feedback. And honestly, that is some coverage services, or some services or screenplay competitions that have like an anonymous feedback person. You don't really know what that person's experience is. They may not even have the experience to really be giving you quality feedback. But when you are getting quality feedback from people who want to see you shine, these are people that want you to have the best story possible, and they are giving you feedback so that you can have the best story possible. They're not giving you feedback to tear you down. So you have to be able to handle that fear and deal with that fear so that you can actually be able to get feedback and address the feedback, to be able to take that in and address it effectively. So, like I said, we're going to talk more about feedback next week. And on feedback, because that was number two. Number three, while two is not getting feedback at all, three is you are trying to incorporate every note you got, even if it's not actually a good fit. And this is a problem of both discernment and fear. The discernment piece is not really understanding what is actually a good note to take, not understanding dang, I just lost what I was going to say. So the discernment piece is not understanding what is actually a good note to take, what is going to serve the story. And not necessarily understanding that just someone may give you a note and that note is not like the real note. Like they may be saying like, "Oh, I think this scene needs more conflict," or or like this, the character's motivation has to be clear or something. They might give you a note, but what's really underneath that is something bigger or something more important. Like this scene needs more conflict. Okay, but like there's all this crazy stuff happening in the scene. You're like, that's not the real note. What's the note underneath the note? And we're going to talk about that as well in a later live. But you have to be able to discern like what are they really saying and what is the problem they're pointing to, even if this specific note, like they're like, oh, this person should do this. Maybe that's what it is. That's actually a better example. Let's say there's a scene, they give you feedback. They're like, oh, this person should blah, blah, blah. And it's something that you're like, but that person would never do that. That sounds crazy. And what they're getting at is they're trying to give you a suggestion for like how to bring more conflict or how to build in more tension. Because the real problem is there's a lack of tension or a lack of clear motivation in this scene. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to give you a suggestion on how to spice it up because they don't actually know how to like articulate, oh, there's a tension issue or this motivation is not clear. So you have to be able to discern what the real note is. So that's one side, is discernment. The other side is fear. I have to incorporate all these things because if I don't, maybe it's not going to be good. Maybe this person won't want to produce it. And that's not going to help you either. You have to be able to you have to be willing to listen and to be collaborative, especially if you are implementing feedback from people that are on the project, people that are decision makers, not just, well, you also have to know what to take, how to find the note underneath the note, and how to stand your ground if there's something that you're like, no, this is really not the right direction for this story. You have to know which battles to pick, and that can be scary, but that is an element of fear. So trying to incorporate all of the notes, even when it's not the right fit, is an issue of discernment, and it is an issue of fear, or it might be an issue of both. So you have to learn which notes to take, which notes to leave, and how to really interpret the note and what the note actually is saying about your story. What it might be saying about your characters, what it might be saying about the pacing, what it might be saying about, the tension and the element. You have to be able to discern that. All right. So number four mistake is that you are not willing to kill your darlings. All right. If you know that phrase, you have to kill your darlings. It's a very common phrase when it comes to writing in particular. And what it means is you have to be willing to cut or change the things that you love, 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 but are not actually right for the story. They're not serving the story, or they are doing doing a disservice to the story. All right, that means you have to be willing to cut those things, to revise those things, to change those things, and be able to adapt so that you can actually have the best story, right? You have to look at your script from the perspective of being in service to the story, not to your ego or your personal wants. You'd be like, but that line is so good, or that scene is so good. They had such a great fight. But if that fight does not actually really drive the story or serve the story, or if it's derailing the story in some way, that scene is going to have to change, or you are not bringing your best work forward. All right, so this is where I'm going to tell you a little story about the project where yes, I had to I took some feedback and I had to kill my darlings. All right, so this is actually before I got into film. I was writing novels, and it was my first novel actually. So I think I had started in college, just like very early years. I was like just out of college, and I like finished this book. I'm like so excited. Yes. Oh, love this. Oh man, finish this book. And as I had given it to my friends, they read it and they were like, all right, so like these things are good, this part's good, but like there's this big gap of like this is not realistic. And it's like a fantasy novel, but there was a structural issue with the way that I had laid the story out, and the presentation of like the main character. And so as they pointed it out, and I don't remember their exact words because I think trauma like made my brain block some of this out. as they laid it out and they were talking to me about it, I was like, okay, okay. And funny enough, as I was writing it, as I had been writing it, I'd had an inkling of like, is this gonna work? I see this thing missing, but does it really need to be in? And like, is the story still going to work? It absolutely did not work. It just did not work. And that is like the perils of being a novice, right? And I did not fully listen to myself. I did not fully go back and be like, okay, let me make sure that that I develop these elements more of the world. It had to do with like the world building. I think the world building and the characters, core parts of the story, right? And I had been so like focused on like the main storyline that I had not built up enough context around it. And I was listening to them and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna have to rewrite this whole book, aren't I? And they were like, yeah, sorry, dog, but you are. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm having a tiny heart attack. And that's because I didn't do my due diligence. But when I went to the revision and I got that feedback, that is what came out of it. And I just scrapped the whole thing and I started from page one. I built out more of the context, out more of just things that I didn't know as I was building this made up world. And I built those things out. And then I went back to page one and I rewrote it. And this is like a 600-page high fantasy novel, right? All right, kill your darlings. So by doing that, I was able to come through with a much stronger story, much more developed characters, a broader scope of the world, the context of the characters within that world, like it was just much stronger. And that is what you have to be willing to do. I mean, hopefully you're not in a situation where you have to just like throw out the whole script and start again. That does happen. I don't want to tell you that it never happens, because it does. Sometimes you might be brought into a project that has already been written and you're like, okay, this needs to be a page one rewrite, or someone else brings a project to you and they're like, we need a page one rewrite on this. We want to bring you on. Sometimes projects get started all the way over from the beginning. If you read Aliens, like I read Aliens back in college, I read 3 versions of Aliens and they were all drastically different. They were all very, very different. So the complete rewrite does happen. It sucks. But even if it's not that, there may be things in your story or characters that you're like, this has to go. When we were writing Wicked City season 1, we had originally developed that show to be a 45-minute to 60-minute show. But when it was greenlit for 30 minutes. So even though the episodes, when you watch them, they usually end up somewhere between like 35 and 45 minutes, it's written for 30 minutes. So when we were writing season 1, that was again intended to be like a 1-hour show. We only had half an hour. We were only writing for half an hour at an episode. And that means we had entire storylines that had to get cut. We had characters that had to get cut. We had things that had to get rearranged because it was not going to fit. But when we did that, the story that came out of it was for 30 minutes was stronger, because there was just no way we were going to fit everything into 60. Same thing, season 2, we had planned out the whole season. We had planned the season, we had done our outlines, we had written the first episode, and then our main character wasn't able to return. She had a conflict. And a lot of the season was centered around her. So we had to go back. I mean, we had not written it. We had written the first episode, but we had outlined all of it. Well, we really had to go back and re-outline the whole season, and not completely recraft the story, but we had to change a lot of stuff. We had to cut a lot of stuff. Season 2 was like, oh man, season 2 was such a good season. But there were things that we definitely had to cut that I was like, oh, I really love this. And we had to be willing to change those things around. And we ended up, once we had made those changes and some of the things that we had wanted to put in that we had to take out, we felt really, really good about where the season actually ended up and where it was going. So you have to be willing to kill your darlings. All right, the number 5 is, this one's tricksy, but not capturing your voice and tone. And voice and tone that can be like a challenging thing to learn and a challenging thing for people to teach. But your first draft, you may not fully capture the voice because your first draft is like, it's a rough draft. It's not supposed to be super great, right? But as you go through and you do your revisions, you do want to make sure that you have a clear voice. You want to make sure that you are capturing the tone, because if you talk to a manager or a rep or anything like that, one of the things that repeatedly gets said by reps when it comes to reading a script is not, how sellable is this? How pitchable is this? Is this something that people will buy? It's, is this a good story, and does it have a strong voice? Because if you don't have a strong voice, they really can't help you. The whole thing is going to fall flat. The story will fall flat. The characters will fall flat. So you want to, as you are doing that revision, make sure that you are capturing voice, that you are capturing perspective, that's tied to voice, and also tone. And these things are some of the things that really help to make your story and your characters come alive. So you have to be crafty. You have to be intentional with your word craft to be able to capture tone, to capture voice in a way that viscerally pulls your reader in. That's what you want, because before your script ends up on screen, you have to capture the people who are reading it to get them to want to put it on screen. All right. So the voice and tone is really important. Like I said, I've talked to several reps. I've listened to several reps on podcasts, and not just reps, directors, different people. They talk about when the voice is coming through, they're like, okay, this is a person I know I can work with. When the voice isn't there, like, it's not there. There's not really anything that they can do with it. Because other elements you can fix. Like, you can fix the formatting. You can, if there's a plot hole, you can fix a plot hole. If there's a character issue, you can fix a character issue. But voice is something that is uh that can get left behind, and you want to make sure that that's coming through, because that is what is also going to help bring everything together and really grab people and let people know that you have something to say and that you know how to say it. That is important. Um, so that was number 5. I'm gonna give you a bonus one. All right. And this one is like, honestly, I can't even believe I have to say this, because it's literally, of all the revision steps and all the things that I've mentioned, it is literally the easiest and fastest thing to fix. And yet people don't do it. And that is, one, they don't proofread and they don't fix their formatting. That is lazy. I'm just going to be honest. It is fucking lazy, guys. Please. It is not hard to proofread your script. And if you're not a good proofreader, find somebody who is and ask them to proofread it. Because there are people, they're industry decision makers who literally, if they see a typo in the first 5-10 pages, they will put it down, because it tells them that you did not do your due diligence. And if you have a lot of typos, they will not even go past those first couple of pages. I've had people send me projects where I read it and I was like, look, the story, the story is there. There's something good there. I'm like, but you have got to proofread your script. You have multiple typos on every single page. Nobody's going to take you seriously like this. It's because it's lazy. And with the formatting, there's different kinds of formatting, but like, pick formatting, be consistent. There are like quote rules, like there are rules to formatting. There are reasons that formatting is done the way that it is done. And it's not that you can't break those rules, but you don't want to be sloppy with your formatting, because if you're sloppy with it, it adds confusion when people are reading the script. And it also tells them that you did not do your due diligence to hone your craft. Poor grammar, poor punctuation, poor formatting tell people that you were not intentional with what you put on the page and how you put it on the page. That you were so eager to get the story down and to get it out to them that you did not actually take all the steps you needed to make sure that you're giving quality work. All right. Don't do that. Literally, grammar, punctuation, formatting are the easiest things to fix in a script. So why would you blow your chances of having your work read because you didn't bother to proofread it? That could be the barrier for you. Somebody could read it, start it, and then be like, "Oh, this is really like this is really poorly done." And then they don't even finish to get your wonderful story because your presentation was shitty. So please, for the love of God, please proofread your scripts. Please check your formatting. Make sure your formatting is correct and that it is consistent. And it is a good idea to make sure that it is correct for the type of script that you are writing. For example, multicam comedy, like a sitcom, is not formatted the same way a feature film is. So understand your formatting, make sure that you are diligent with that so that you are presenting your best work. And I actually have a script formatting tutorial inside Black Screenwriter Line. So you can come and when you join, you can try it 7 days for free, blackscreenwriteralliance.mn.co. And inside the community is that workshop that you will have access to and when you're a full member. So come and join us. Also, as part of this revision process, like I said, it is really, really important to have the right people giving you feedback and getting support and the right people to workshop and problem solve the issues of your script. And that is something that you get inside Black Screenwriter Alliance as well, because we are a community. We are here for support. We are here for championing each other, for helping each other, for bouncing ideas, for giving perspectives, giving feedback. So come on and join us. Again, try it free for 7 days, blackscreenwriteralliance.mn.co. And also make sure that you like this live. If you like this, if you got something from it, make sure you like it. You can share it, subscribe as well. This helps to get us out there to more people. Lets YouTube know that you like us. So yes, make sure that you like and subscribe and come and give us a try inside Black Screenwriter Alliance. Like I said, you can try it 7 days for free, and make sure that you join us next week. I will be going live Tuesday, Thursday to talk more about revision. And I believe next week's subject matter is related to feedback. Uh, Let me just check that. Yes, yes, yes. We are going to be talking about feedback next week. So join us for that and join us inside Black Screenwriter Alliance because we're having conversations around revision. We're diving into revision. You also have the option to do a table read with actors when you are a member, because we have partnerships with actors for this. And we also have accountability tools and resources in there and calls. So these are things that will help keep you on track. So yes, join us inside, and I will see you guys in the next live stream.